was at the city council meeting for the Rotary.
Okay, roll call, please.
Noted for the record that all commissioners are present with the exception of Commissioner Abernathy, who had surgery today.
Cataract.
Cataract surgery?
Oh.
So he's excused.
Okay, that's good. Could we rise for the Pledge of Allegiance, please? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Going to see public comments. Public comments are an opportunity to address the Planning Commission on items of interest to the public that do not appear on the agenda. Comments should be limited to 3 minutes. The Commission may not take actions on items raised during public comments. Anyone in the audience? Seeing none, we'll move on. Adoption of the meeting agenda. Do I have a motion to adopt the agenda as presented?
So moved?
Do I have a second? Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. To communications correspondence.
Nothing received since distribution of the packet.
Thank you. Consent calendar, minutes of approval from December 13th, 2017. Is there any comments, any changes, anything that anyone would like to do? If not, do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
I'll second it. All in favor?
Aye.
All right. Wow, right down to G, public hearing. Setback and fence height variance, 1403 Myrtle Street, VA 2018-1. Consideration of, 1, a reduction in the required street side setback to allow the construction of a carport 5 feet from the property line, and 2, the placement of a 6-foot-high fencing, and vehicle and pedestrian gates in a minimum required setback along both property frontages. May I have a staff report, please?
Certainly. Chair, Commission members, Kevin Thompson, Senior Planner. This item is a variance request for 1401 Myrtle Street, known as the Francis Street Bed and Breakfast. If granted, this variance would do a couple things. As you mentioned, would allow a 10-foot encroachment into the street side yard setback for the construction of a carport. Also would allow construction of a 6-foot-high fence and 3 gates along both frontages on Myrtle and Spring. You may recall back in April of 2016, the Planning Commission did approve a use permit for a 5-bedroom bed and breakfast. At that time, there was no fencing proposed. The carport design is like an arbor. It's using heavy timbers, posts, and beams. If you look in attachment 2 of your staff report, you can get an idea of what the carport will look like. The whole impetus for this request for a variance was that once Mr. Dwyer had started construction on his site, he realized that he really didn't have enough backup space for the cars that would be using the carport. And you can see in the figure 1 in the staff report kind of how that's illustrated. There's not really enough room to back out of the carport safely, so that's a big reason for this request. The fence is a wire style. It'll be supported by posts with no cross members. The applicant has indicated he will plant English lavender as a hedge along all the entire linear structure of the fence on both frontages. The gates there's 3 gates, as you mentioned, are similar in design as the wrought iron on the balconies currently on the house. Staff is supporting this request for a variance because there is basically, along Spring and Myrtle Street, there's a 13-foot public right-of-way at the back of sidewalk. It's 18 feet from the face of curb. So the property line really is set back from the sidewalk. So that right-of-way will never be built on or encroached into. And staff believes that setbacks are effectively being met by that permanent open space that is behind the sidewalk. The project is exempt from CEQA based on 15305 minor alterations to the land. Mr. Dwyer was going to be here. He still may, if you have any detailed questions for him. Otherwise, Lynn and I are here if you have any staff questions. That concludes my presentation.
Thank you very much. Any comments from the commissioners before I open it up to the public?
I just had one question of staff. It may be nothing, but in your graphic, In two of the parking spaces, the note says remove. What is that?
Yeah, that's from, I used this from a previous illustration that Mr. Dwyer had submitted, and it's not applicable to this.
Okay.
Are those trees? There's
They may have
axes.
been trees.
I was trying to.
Yeah,
I see.
well, it says number 7 on both. I'm not real
I don't know.
sure exactly, but trees is a good guess.
Okay. That's my only question.
And is this, the deer fencing, is that what they're proposing, is something like this?
It is the deer fencing, yes.
Okay.
And then it's the idea here is to plant the English laurel that will grow to the height of the fence
Okay.
and sort of be like a green wall effect is how he described it. So it'll be a nice hedge.
Be good. It looks great for a ranch maybe, but maybe not so much on Myrtle Street when I walk down there. Okay, there, that's a little better. Feel better now.
Any other comments? Yeah, if hearing none, this is a public hearing. I will open it up to the public if anyone would like to come forward and speak. Very quiet out there tonight. Seeing none, I will close the public hearing, and we will bring it back to the commissioners for either a more discussion or a motion.
So one quick question. What was the intent of this 13-foot public right-of-way? How did it, do you know the history or why?
I
it's there?
don't. I mean, I would guess that it was probably for road widening or sidewalk widening, but I'm not really sure. I think it's been there for a long time. So I don't know the answer, but
Okay. And on this site plan, the fence would be at the property line?
right.
Okay.
Any other comments? I'll entertain a motion.
Do you want to see?
If it would be irrelevant at this point.
All right.
So do I have a motion?
Sure. I move that the Planning Commission adopt a resolution approving a variance to allow construction of a carport 5 feet from the street side property line, construction of a 6-foot fence, and gates within the front setback areas.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None. Thank you so much. Mr. Dwyer, thank you for coming. Your timing was impeccable. You're all good to go.
I did not know Calistoga had a rush hour.
We did.
Stuck in traffic?
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Keep building.
Okay, we will move on to H, General Government, General Plan, Annual Report, Status of the Calistoga General Plan and Progress Made Towards its Implementation in 2017.
Director
Staff.
Goldberg.
You're up.
Thank you. This is the annual report that's required by the state. You'll be making hopefully a recommendation to the city council for them to accept the report, and then we will be filing it with the Office of Planning and Research and the Department of Housing and Community Development. Very important for us to submit this report because it's on most of the checklists for any kind of grant funding, and they will go back and check now, and housing elements specifically are under the microscope, so it's very important we get this done and filed with the state by April 1st. So you see this every spring. We update you on important things that we've done to implement the general plan, which, as well as an information document, also includes goals, policies, and implementation actions. As basically guidelines for the community's future, not just development, but all kinds of improvements, including transportation, infrastructure. So we are, we've been updating the elements over the years in-house, just saving money and trying to incrementally do it. And we're in the process of updating the infrastructure element because a substantial amount of information in this element needs to be updated since it was last updated in 2003. So as you can imagine, we've made a lot of changes to water, wastewater, storm drainage, and water reclamation. So I've actually drafted the element, and it's living in Public Works Department land at the moment. So hopefully they'll have a chance to review it and give me comments so we can bring that to you. We did not amend the general plan in 2017, and some of the more significant actions that we took are included in attachment 1 with details for the housing element as required by state law. We have to go program by program in attachment 2. Just a few quick highlights. We issued a seismic retrofit permit for one of the unreinforced masonry buildings, and that retrofit work is done. We completed the Logby Park sidewalk along its Washington Street frontage. As you know, the bridge replacement projects are in full swing, and hopefully one of them will be done at the end of, didn't say what year, but it did say March 28th, so I'm assuming they're talking about the end of this month. I completed reconstruction of the Monhoff Recreation and Teen Center, granted occupancy for the new Boys and Girls Club, issued building permits for the 30-unit senior apartment project on Lower Washington. We reduced the development impact fees for accessory dwelling units and multifamily units to promote this type of housing. We approved the 50-unit, or you approved the 50-unit Calistoga Vista multifamily project, which will include 8 affordable units. We purchased a housing site in the Lower Washington Street neighborhood. And then page 4 anticipates some things that we're already working on or will be completed during 2018, which is to grant occupancy to the senior apartments. We anticipate that happening soon. And then hopefully issuing building permits for a number of projects such as Calistoga Vista. We've seen just continued interest in infill development, single-family houses, duplexes, small projects like that. We're going to continue the residential rehab program. We got, as you may recall, $600,000 more on top of the $500,000 that we got from home. We have a $600,000 CDBG grant. So we have 14 new loans underway for that, and with some money to be spent still. Then we're going to continue the seismic retrofits, construct a crosswalk on Lincoln at Brannan with advanced warning lights, hopefully install a pedestrian bicycle bridge over Napa River right out the back door here. The restrooms at Tildusky Field
They are completed as of today. All is lacking is the signage on the ADA parking by the city. They are complete.
You're waiting on the city? We're making aesthetic and functional improvements to the community center, even as we speak. Hopefully finally construct the intake tower improvements at Kimball Reservoir. We're replacing phage water tank, which is a very important part of our water supply. Add a citywide evacuation plan to the emergency operation plan. Seems like a good idea. And we're going to add some more directional signs. You saw a presentation of that overall program a couple meetings ago. And we're going to continue to work with the county on Joint Powers Authority at the Napa County Fairgrounds to guide the potential redevelopment of that property. Also required by state law, we reviewed the land use element to determine if any revisions are needed to reflect the updated flooding information, and no changes are required at this time. And I'd just like to call your attention to the last page on page 10. You don't actually have to turn to it, but we have substantially met our share of regional housing needs for the 2015-2022 planning period already. We only lacked issuance of permit for one moderate income housing unit, and we actually just did that this week. So we are midway through the planning period and have already met all of our regional housing needs, but by no means are we going to rest on our laurels. And as you know, we're aggressively pursuing all housing opportunities for all ranges in the income spectrum. So happy to answer any questions. Otherwise, I'm recommending that you recommend to City Council acceptance of this report.
A very, very busy year.
Yes, and it's not slowing down.
I'm sure you're glad Kevin is here now.
Yeah, huge relief.
I have one complaint. Not of your doing. Under the annual review of the land use element, if you go back historically through this community, we've never had a flood. Yeah, this is personal as well as many people live along the river or have property along the river. The flood insurance we pay is beyond insanity, and since the work's been done down valley, the potential for flooding is non-existent, and yet we still sit and pay ridiculous amounts of money for something that's short of the good Lord intervening in our life. There's nothing ever going to happen, and yet we continue to pay. Is there not the ability for the city to move forward and have this reevaluated?
I don't believe the only constraint is downstream.
Well, we can go historical, and it's never happened.
Well,
So
Yeah, well, there's history and there's history. And
But
so
weren't
there's-
all the base flood elevations recently updated?
Yeah, I do believe that we were just given a new flood map, and it actually shifted some things around and put some more properties in, and is taking some properties out.
I believe they
So-
need more revenue is the reason they do this. That's my personal opinion. Yes, I mean, trust me,
Oh,
on the insurance
well,
side, they do.
No, they did exhaustive hydrologic calculations, and it's very scientific.
Okay.
But, yeah, we're definitely keeping up on that because it does affect construction also.
Okay, thank you. Commissioners, any questions or comments or anything? If
I think it's pretty complete.
Okay, you've done a lot of work
Great.
done. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And by the way, while we're at it, so I do not forget, welcome aboard, Kevin.
All right.
I
Absolutely.
was not doing my diligence when we started. I should have done it at that time. I apologize for that. But I'm glad that you're here. We need you desperately. There's a lot of things coming down, so welcome aboard. That being said, I guess we need a motion, do we not?
Sure.
Or just a recommendation?
Yeah, you go ahead and make a motion. I didn't do a resolution.
Okay, do I have anyone that would like to, it says recommendation, but does anybody want to make it a motion or recommendation? Or I will. Recommend to the City Council acceptance of the annual report on the general plan. Do I have a second to that
Second.
recommendation? Oh, very good. All in favor?
Aye.
All right. That was a short meeting.
No,
wait,
No, I'm not done. I'm just saying that was a short meeting. I'm looking at all the important items on it. So let me move back to my cover sheet here. Oh, I'm back. Okay. Matters initiated by commissioners. Anything exciting? We haven't met since December, I believe, correct?
Right.
December 7th, 13th.
Yeah, so anything that has arisen during that time?
Just to welcome Kevin
Yes, indeed.
and look forward to working with you.
And the most exciting on the entire agenda tonight is the director's report.
Yeah, I'm very grateful that Kevin has joined us. He comes by way of Ukiah and Windsor, and just jumped in with both feet and hit the ground running, so I could go on an extended vacation and such, so it's been great having him on board, so you'll be hearing a lot from him, because he'll be handling pretty much all the current planning items. So, and I'd also like to recommend cancellation of the March 28th meeting. We don't have any agenda items ready for you for that meeting, but Kevin is busy cranking out environmental documents on several projects. So I anticipate being pretty busy the second half of the year for sure. We're going to have some things queued up for you.
Good.
Very good.
And I told him we have really short meetings.
Well, usually not quite this short. Okay.
That's it for me.
Would you like to say anything, Kevin?
Well, I'm very happy to be here, and I really do admire Lynn's organizational skills and planning skills. I'm not used to that actually. Where I came from wasn't quite as organized, which makes it so much easier and nice. So thank you, Lynn. I'm happy to be here. It's exciting to see all the projects. Wasn't sure exactly how many there would be, but there's actually quite a few, probably more than I thought there would be, and some really cool, interesting projects that it's fun to work on. So I'm happy to be here. Thank you.
Welcome aboard.
Was it like getting hit by a fire hose when you dropped in? Or not that
Well, I believe it or not, I was in Ukiah for 3 years, and we were very shorthanded, and it was actually very busy. So it's kind of ramping up to be similar to that. So
Good.
yeah.
Very good. Thank you. Okay, I believe that's our meeting for the night. So if I have a motion to adjourn,
Motion to adjourn.
I will second that. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right.
Okay.
Thank you.